Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, Ron Rivera had his first presser of the week. Well, first presser heading into week number 8. He had a presser on Monday, as he always does, to address the day after the game. But you turn the page once you get to Wednesday, start to focus on the next opponent. It's the first day of practice, and it's the first time for the media to really get a chance to ask Ron questions heading into the upcoming week's game. A lot of interesting discussion at the presser today, most of it surrounding growth of this team, Taylor Heineke, Jamin Davis, the defensive line in particular, Danny Johnson. A lot of positivity today. And like I said, last week's game, even though it was not a favorable outcome and it's not what you're after, you're not looking to just lose by 14. Oh, we did a great job. We lost by 14 instead of losing by 18 or, 25 or whatever the case may be. It wasn't that we lost by 14. It was the way we lost in the game, and that it was mistakes that are correctable, things that we did, not necessarily things that the Packers did to us. And that's encouraging when you can pinpoint the reasons why and know that if we clean it up on our end, we can win. That's positive. When earlier in the season, you were just getting your ass beat, and it wasn't really, oh, we made a mistake here or there. No, you weren't good enough. So Ron talked about a number of things, but I want to focus in on one thing in particular that he said. He told the team this week. And so a question was posed to Ron referencing the 2-7 start last year. And obviously, I talk about this all the time because that's the one thing that I can hold on to. And it's funny, someone brought this to the forefront on the podcast today when they essentially said, this year isn't last year. And he wasn't making necessarily a reference to anything particular that I had said or, anything in particular surrounding this team. He did reference the defensive line or the defense in general being bad. But I keep harping on what we did last year. And in response to what he had said, because his comment was spot on, I said, look, you're right. This year isn't last year. And that's the thing we love about the NFL is that each year brings something brand new and different. And you can't really bank on much in the NFL. There are certain things that you feel pretty confident. I mean, one of those things would have been that the Chiefs would have been good this year, and they're not. But there are certain things you feel pretty confident going into the season. Health intact, and that's something that you just assume. Assuming health, certain teams are going to be pretty good. Again, the Chiefs haven't had any real major injuries to their football team per se. Chris Jones is a pretty significant injury on the defensive side, but they're not playing at the level that one would expect. And he said the Chiefs are bad and in last place. The Bengals are good and in first place in their division. Meanwhile, Washington's defense is bad and the Arizona Cardinals and Dallas Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. He's like, this is not last year. And I responded to that by saying, you're absolutely right. And I have to stop referencing last year when talking about this year. And one of the things I like to do is I keep harking back to last year in regards to this team and what we did last year. And we can do it again. We did it last year. What we did last year has nothing to do with this year, even though you try to build off of those things. And part of the reason I wanted them to make the postseason last year is because you can draw from that experience. Well, this is what happened last year. We made a run. We banded together and we were able to win one game at a time. And next thing we looked up, we had won 4 in a row and we slayed a giant on the road that was undefeated. And, all of these things are experiences you can draw from last year. But that was last year's team. Alex Smith is not on the team this year, okay? And we can go down the list of guys that were here last year that aren't here this year. And not many of them were key contributors to this team, right? But Ronald Darby, it's not on this team anymore. And I could go on and on. So as you go through the list of players and you look at this team this year, I've been harping on that our season is just starting essentially. You don't ever want to start in a four game or 3 game hole essentially at 2-5, but everything we want is essentially still in front of us. That's been my mantra of late, is that everything that we want is still in front of us. And Ron told the team this week that we can still achieve a lot of the goals we set out for ourselves. Obviously, the NFC East isn't what it was last year. It was so much easier to get the guys riled up and encouraged when you could dangle the carrot in front of them of, hey, division's right there. We're a game out of first place. Can't do that right now, but that doesn't mean we won't be able to do that down the road. I've always said this, and this doesn't change, and it really pertains to any situation. And you hear guys say this all the time because it's true. Not because it's rhetoric, not because it's something that people like to say because it sounds good. It's because it's true. A lot of times when people say things over and over again, it's because there's truth to that statement. It may sound cliche, but it's true. One of those statements is control what you can control. You hear guys say that all the time. Look, I can't worry about what is happening with the secondary. I can't worry about what's happening on the offensive side of the football or the defensive side of the football, or we can't worry about what the outside noise is saying or what all this other stuff is going on or what this team's doing, what that. All we can do is control what we can control, or all I can do is control what I can control. You hear it all the time, but it's true. And remember, before the season started, I thought this team was the best in the NFC East. I said, talent-wise, I think Dallas is better than us. And I've said that multiple times. But I said, as a collective unit, as a team, I think that we're the best team. Not by much, but I thought we were the best team. I thought we were the best coached team. I thought we had enough talent, not the most, because I thought Dallas was the team with the most talent. But I said, we've got enough talent and coaching combined to supersede Dallas in the division. Well, that hasn't played itself out to this point. That's fine. But the overall theme of the message was, if we just take care of ourselves, not worry about what anybody else is doing, if you're the best like you say you are, then when it's all said and done, you'll find yourself at the top. Generally, that's what happens when you're really good, is you don't really worry about what everybody else. Green Bay's not concerned about what Minnesota, Detroit, or Chicago's doing, because in their mind, they say, if we take care of business, we do the things we're supposed to do, we'll have 12 or 13 wins and nobody else in the division will be close. We'll have more than everybody else because we're better than them. That's how I want to approach things. And that's what Ron essentially told the team is, look, we can't control anything else. We've dug ourselves a hole, essentially. Now we need to dig ourselves out of this hole. Everything we want is still in front of us, but we've got to do it one game at a time. And so he says, if we take care of business here and into November, we'll look up and we'll have a chance in December with 5 straight divisional games. But it starts now. We got to take care of business now. And then one at a time. And that's what we did last year. Nobody was thinking about 4 straight last year. And again, I hate to keep harking on last year because last year is last year, this year is this year. But when we won that first game, it was, oh, it's just Cincinnati. So what? I still thought we were going to get destroyed on Thanksgiving the following week against Dallas. Like, it doesn't matter. Still, it's Cincinnati, whatever. We're going to lose to Dallas. Andy Dalton's back. We're going to lose to Dallas anyway. We destroyed Dallas. Oh, that was great. Felt good. We should beat San Francisco, right? We should beat San Francisco. But we had the Steelers first. And I'm thinking, okay, so we'll lose this Steelers game. But we should be able to bounce back against San Francisco the following week. And then I remember like it was yesterday, the Giants, that same week we had the Steelers. We thought they were going to lose to Seattle on the road. Remember, Daniel Jones was out. They had to start Colt McCoy. And obviously they had no Saquon. He was out the entire season. What are they going to do for offense in that game? And they went to Seattle and they won an improbable game. And I remember like it was yesterday coming on and saying, well, the Giants have put themselves in a position to win this division. That's a massive win. I don't think we can match it. We're going to lose to the Steelers. We're already a game back of the Giants. We can't afford to fall back 2 games of the Giants. There's not many games left. Well, I said, if you're serious, you find a way to beat Pittsburgh. The Giants just put everyone on notice in the division and said, hey, we're not effing around. I thought we were going to lose. I said we were going to lose. And the guys showed up and showed out, and we got an improbable victory. And then I said, the division's ours. That was the one. Then the Giants went on to go on a nasty losing streak until week 17 where they beat Dallas. We continued to play good football, even though we lost 2 out of the next 3 games. We beat San Francisco, but then we lost to Seattle and Carolina. But because we had built up a little bit of equity there, we were able to hang on and win the division. So nobody thought when that first started with a meaningless win against Cincinnati in late November, nobody thought that was going to turn into and manifest itself into a 4-game win streak. Nobody's looking at this game against Denver and saying, hey, it's the beginning of us turning the season around, except maybe me and a few others. But at 2-5, nobody's paying attention to us. You know what? Maybe that's a good thing. Because there was a lot of eyes on us when the season started. A lot of people thinking we were going to be something that we weren't. And we didn't handle that well. And I'm sick and tired of us not handling expectations well. But I wasn't that upset about us not handling expectations from a win standpoint early in the season as much as I was just the defense not handling expectations. That's what pissed me off. I didn't expect to beat Buffalo, nor Green Bay or Kansas City. Those were all losses to me, regardless of what the situation was, whether the defense was playing really good or not. Those were expected losses. Those were baked into my season prediction. What we weren't supposed to do was lose to the Saints and give up 33. Almost lose to the Falcons, give up 30. Lose to the Buffalo Bills, give up 43. We were supposed to lose, not giving up 43. And almost lose to the Giants, giving up 29. That's what wasn't supposed to happen. But ultimately, it did. Or 28, whatever it was against the Giants. Bottom line is, nobody's paying attention to us. Everybody thinks we stink again. There's no spotlight on this team. This defense isn't very good. No one's really concerned about what Washington's defense looks like anymore because we're an afterthought. That's not what I want us to be, but that's where we are. Let's be honest with each other. Everybody's conceding the division to Dallas, and at this point, that's not that bad of an idea. Dallas looks good. Everybody else in the division looks terrible and is at 2-5. I don't blame anyone that's already conceding that Dallas is the division winner in the NFC East, despite there being 10 games left in the season. I don't blame anybody for doing that. But what if we just take it one game at a time? That's all we can do. You can't win 5 games at once. Just like we've talked about with Taylor Heineke, there's no 17-point play. One possession at a time. With this team, one game at a time. Denver, Sunday afternoon, Halloween, at Mile High Stadium. That's the beginning potentially of something that can turn into a positive for this team moving forward this season. And Ron essentially conveyed that message to the team when he said, look, we don't know what's going to happen with Dallas. That's really out of our hands. We have no control over what happens with Dallas until later in the season when we play them twice in a 3-week span. We have no control over what happens with the Cowboys. They could win the rest of their games. They could lose the rest of their games. That's not our concern. Our concern is us. If we take care of business one game at a time, when we get to late November into December, when we've got 5 consecutive divisional opponents, those games will matter. They'll mean something. If we don't take care of business one game at a time, if we continue to show the inconsistency of a young football team, we continue to lose games that are there for the taking, we won't have 5 divisional games that mean a damn thing at the end of the season, and we'll just be playing out the string at that point. I think that message is going to resonate with the team. I think they're going to show up and show out on Sunday. And I feel really good for the first time in 2 weeks about our chances of winning. Doesn't mean we're going to win. I felt really good in week 5 against the Saints. We didn't get it done. But help may be on the way, and that's where we transition to in other news. So I wasn't expecting the Brigade to show up this week. I was expecting the Brigade to show up after the bye. I thought we would start getting bodies back after the bye, but I told you this, and I said this as a throwaway line. I said, there's a reason Ron didn't put a lot of these guys on IR. Didn't put Curtis Samuel on IR. Didn't put Cam Sims on IR. Didn't put Brandon Sheriff on IR. That's because they think they can get these guys back sooner rather than later. If you thought those guys weren't going to make it back before 3 weeks, you just put them on IR. You free up a roster spot. No reason in tying up a roster spot with a guy that's going to be out for a month. But if you think there's a chance, then you keep hope alive and you don't put them on IR. That's what they essentially did. They rolled the dice with several players, and it may be paying off. Let's take a look at the injury report. This is a positive. Now, there's 1 or 2 names up here that you're like, didn't know about that, but I wouldn't be alarmed about those injuries if I were you. I would more so be paying attention to some of these positives and guys that may be back this week to help the football team. Let's take a look. So we start with the Washington football team, and you know it's bad on both sides where when I don't have enough space to fit both teams up here at once, I've got to separate them into each team's own injury list. So as you can see, the list for Washington, as it's been for the last almost month now, very, very long. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're back to 12 guys on the injury report. I think last week it had gotten down to 11. 10, I think it was down to like 10. And then by the time we got towards the end of the week, it had gotten back up to like 11 or 12. But here we are, 12 guys. But again, as you can see, most of these guys practice today, which is amazing because Wednesday is the day where you have guys sit out of practice. But that's not what's happening today, which means guys are feeling really good. So let's take a look at this list. Let's take a look at the guys that practice today, because more likely than not, those guys are going to play this week. Antonio Gibson with the shin. We know what it is. He's done this for the last month or so, shoulder/shin. He's going to play. William Jackson III, knee, didn't play last week. He almost played last week, which leads me to believe he'll play this week. Brandon Sheriff, this one is big news because Sheriff has been out since the Buffalo game. I believe it was the Buffalo game. And was it Buffalo? I don't think it was Buffalo. I think it was Atlanta he got injured in. We had like 8 or 9 guys go down against Atlanta, and Sheriff was one of them. So he hasn't played since week 4. Sheriff, knee injury, limited practice today. That bodes well for him playing on Sunday. Ricky Seals-Jones, quad injury, had the same quad injury last week, played. I expect him to play this week. Cam Sims, hamstring. This was a guy that hadn't even been out on the practice field the last couple of weeks. I think he was out there just a tad, but still in street clothes last week. Hamstring, limited practice. He says he feels great. I'll talk to you about what he said to the media today. He's going to play on Sunday, barring any kind of a setback. Danny Johnson, wrist injury, full participant. He's fine. He'll play. Jay Sternberger, foot injury. In the event that we need him, which if there's no Logan Thomas and something happens to Ricky Seals-Jones, we would need him. But in the event that we need him, foot injury, full participant, he will play as well if he's active, which right now he's not necessary. So let's get to the guys that did not practice today and talk about how significant them not practicing is or isn't. Start with Dyami Brown, knee injury. He's not playing in this game. He got injured last week, did not return to the game. There's no reason for him to play, even if you thought there was a chance. You got a bye week coming up. I say you wait until after the bye week. You reassess Dyami then and see if he can go. He's been nursing that knee injury. He looked to be writhing in pain when he was down against the Packers on Sunday. I don't anticipate him playing at all this week. And again, I don't think there's a need for him to play, especially if you're getting Cam Sims back, which it looks like we will. Sam Cosmi, ankle, don't expect him to play. You wait till next week or after the bye week, give him 2 more weeks off, and then he should be ready to go back at full strength with that ankle and ready to help this team for the remainder of the season. Terry McLaurin, hamstring. He's been dealing with this hammy the last 2 weeks, but I don't think it's anything major. I think this is more of a precautionary measure they're taking just to make sure that he's healthy and ready to help. And so just like last week and the week before, when he showed up on the injury report, I expect Terry to give it a go on Sunday. Curtis Samuel with the groin, I wouldn't play him. I told you he'd be one of those guys I'd wait until after the bye week. With that groin, a groin isn't a hamstring or ankle. It's a groin. And the only thing is, I told you guys when he first hurt his groin back in the summer, even though I thought that he had healed all the way from it, only thing, or spring actually, is when the groin injury cropped up, is rest. So I wouldn't be, I'd continue to stretch him, have him on the side field, but he's not doing anything strenuous for the next 2 weeks. And then heading into that Tampa game, that's when he should be back on the practice field in at worst a limited capacity, but hopefully in a full capacity. And then Wes Schweitzer with the neck. This was the one that I told you was a surprise. I don't like surprises on the injury report because they're usually not good. Had no idea Wes Schweitzer had anything going on with his neck. Don't know the severity of it. I can't just say like I could with Terry, oh, he's been nursing a hamstring, but he's played the last couple of weeks, so he should be fine. We don't know what the status of Wes Schweitzer is with that neck. All we know is he didn't practice today. I think tomorrow, as I always say, when we don't know about a guy that doesn't practice on Wednesday, tomorrow will be the telling day. If we don't get any limited work out of Wes Schweitzer tomorrow, that neck injury may be enough to keep him out of the contest on Sunday. Now, again, we're getting Brandon Sheriff back, so you wouldn't theoretically need Schweitzer if Sheriff is back, but we all know Sheriff could easily be like a turnstile. In 1 second, out the next, and the first guy usually up is Wes Schweitzer. So there is still significance to that injury because we just can't trust Brandon Sheriff to stay healthy. So we'll see what happens with Schweitzer. That's one to keep an eye on. But of the 12 guys that I just mentioned on this injury report, literally, much like last week, I think last week it was like 12, and I was like, I expect 8 or 9 of these guys to play. And I think it turned out to be 8 or 9, maybe even 10 guys that ultimately played, and only 1 or 2, missed the game. I think it was like more like 3 or 4 because Cam Sims, Curtis Samuel, Brandon Sheriff, and Sam Cosmi all missed the game last week, but everybody else played. So, and William Jackson III didn't play either. But so I think it was more like out of 12, it might have been like 7 guys played and 5 didn't. I think it's going to be similar this week. Dyami's not playing. I don't think Sam Cosmi is going to play. And I don't think Curtis Samuel is going to play. So that's 3 out of 12. Now, Schweitzer is worth keeping an eye on. We really don't know about him. And I think that's the last guy that I'm kind of like on the fence about. And we'll learn more about it tomorrow. But this is encouraging. If we get, Brandon Sheriff back. If we get Cam Sims back, which it sounds like we're going to get him back this week, get William Jackson III. And I know some of y'all thought the defense was better without him. I can't deny that, but let's see if he can add to this defense instead of subtracting. Let's see if he can add to this defensive performance and it getting better moving forward. Maybe it was addition by subtraction last week. We'll see. But I want to see him back out there. I'm not giving up on William Jackson III. And so I like what this looks like. For the first time in a few weeks, I like what the injury report is starting to look like. And it'll look a lot less like this after the bye if we don't incur any more injuries in Denver. I surmise that this list will shrink down to about maybe 5 or 6 names where it needs to be, not a laundry list like this each and every single week. So, and now we transition to Denver, and really their injury report is pretty clean. It's a lot of names, but as you can see, most of these guys practiced on Wednesday. As you can see, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on this thing. But of the 10 guys, 8 of them practiced in some capacity today, whether it be limited or full. So that tells you that the vast majority of these players are more likely than not going to be able to play on Sunday. But the biggest name on this list won't be able to play, and that is Von Miller, who severely sprained his ankle against the Cleveland Browns on Thursday night. He's going to be out for at least the next 2, probably to 4 weeks. He's not playing. And look, all these names up here are cool. None of them equal to Von Miller. You could put all of these names together that is on this list, and it still wouldn't equal up to the danger that Von Miller brings to the table. So I would trade every single guy on their injury report to be healthy enough to play. If you tell me Von Miller's not playing, and Von's not playing, I can tell you right now, you all watched the game last week just like I did. They thought it could be season ending. They got a break. He's not playing. So they could go ahead and rule him out right now. They're not going to, but they can rule Von Miller out right now. He's not playing. So we caught a break. Now we have to take advantage of it. We'll see what happens. But honestly, the names on this list, they're cool, but they're all going to play. I don't really need to go through the list because, as you can see, all these guys in some capacity practice except for Mike Purcell, backup defensive tackle. Everybody else in some way, shape, or form practice. So assume they're going to play, but Von Miller will not. That's huge. Garrett Bowles, their left tackle, is on this list with a foot injury. That's another impactful name. And just to mention, their wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, not listed here, is on IR, but is expected to be activated from IR and back to the active roster. So I think we'll be getting Jerry Jeudy for the first time since week number 1, which is not good news for us because part of the reason the Broncos offense has been stagnant of late is because of the lack of speed. Both of their speed demons at receiver, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, have been out for the last 3 weeks or so. Jeudy since week 1 against the Giants. So it would have been nice to catch them without any real true deep threats. That said, they'll get some speed back into their offense with Jeudy and Albert O, who, if you recall, at his pro day or at the combine a couple of years ago, ran a 4.4 as a tight end. He is expected to be back this week as well to give them even more speed at the tight end position. They already have Noah Fant, and you know what tight ends do to this team. So that's not great news either. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to in other news where we heard from Ron. As I mentioned, Ron talked about a number of guys, and he was positive. He spoke highly of Taylor Heinicke and Danny Johnson and, you know, the upside of Antonio Gibson, and talking about how he's been fighting through the shin injury and how he's continuing to grow as a running back. But obviously the injuries have kind of derailed some of the growth. But, you know, we talked about the defensive line getting better and how they're rushing as one, and how it's fun to see them using the techniques that are being taught and rushing in their proper rush lanes and keeping the integrity of the cup, as, you know, defensive guys like to say. He talked also about, you know, different aspects of this team. Jamin Davis is another guy that he talked about and saying, he's special when he just plays downhill. Talked about Landon Collins and complimented him. And this was by far and away Landon Collins' best game of the season. And I think you could even say one of his best games as a member of the Washington football team, even going back to his first year here where he actually was really good. He was exceptional in this game, down around the line of scrimmage as a blitzer, tackles for loss, and a recovered fumble. He was all over the football field, was Landon Collins, and this role fits him to a T. I don't understand the pushback from Landon Collins. This is what he was made to do. So Ron kind of talked about that as well. Then you transition to Taylor Heineke, and Taylor pretty much talked about finding that balance, that synergy between, being too careful but playing without fear. And he said that, the 2 games prior to Green Bay, he had been playing not to lose his job, essentially. And he said in doing so, he tried to be perfect, and it made him play worse than when he just goes out and plays carefree, without a care in the world, which is what he did against Tampa last year and what he did, against the Giants in his first game as a starter, and then this season, and then the Atlanta game when he was at home, back home in front of family and friends. And then this time, and it's funny, JP Finley actually asked this question at the presser, and I've been thinking this, but I'm like, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, he's not going to play many more of these games where they mean something to him. But I thought about it. I said, some of his best games this season have been in situations where it meant something. Like the first game that he started this year was his first start, where it's a meaningful game. Like he started in Carolina, but that was at the end of a lost season. Not that really impactful. Yeah, he started the NFC wildcard game against Tampa last year, but for all intents and purposes, that was a one and done audition. Like if you play well, you might be back in the league. If you don't, your career's done essentially. And he took advantage of that. But this was an opportunity. That Giants game was an opportunity for him to seize control of this team. Remember, after the game, he said, I believe I've done enough to be the team's quarterback for the remainder of the season. So that was a big game. Then the Falcons game was a big game, and he played well in that game, just like he did against the Giants. That was a game where he played in front of family and friends, like 45 minutes of where he grew up at, living with his sister and all that stuff, hometown, high school football, all that good jazz in Georgia. And then this game against the Packers was his third best game. And this was, again, another emotional game. Him and his dad grew up Packer fans, watching games together, yada, 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 dreamed of playing in Green Bay, did the Lambeau leap when he thought he scored a touchdown. So every time there's some kind of emotional attachment to the game he's playing, and he plays really well. And when there's not, the end result. So JP Finley essentially asked him that question, and he said, yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming, you're getting that from and where you're coming from in asking that. But I mean, there's really no real rhyme or reason to it. I just have to play with no fear, without a care, essentially. I just got to go out and have fun. Now, I wasn't doing that the last couple of weeks, but I did it against Green Bay, and I just need to do that. And JP Finley then followed up and said, do you have any ants in Denver? Which I thought was pretty funny because we don't have a chance to win if he doesn't play well. When he plays well, we have a shot. And every game he's played well in this season, we've been right there. And every game that he hasn't, we haven't. So as he goes, as you could probably say about 100% of the NFL teams, as he goes, we go. So he talked about being more confident, knowing his role on this team, not worried about, is he going to be the starter after the bye week, this, that, and the third. He's like, I'm just going to go out and play ball, And he admitted, and I was glad to hear this, that after watching the film, he probably could have walked into the end zone. He's like, yeah, I probably didn't have to dive, but I told you what he thought. In the heat of the moment, you see a flash of color out of your peripheral. You really don't know how close they are. He felt like he was in imminent danger, so he dove. He said, there's been this internal struggle with playing safe, protecting yourself, staying healthy, and just going out and playing. And he said he's starting to find that balance now because you could tell there were some games where he made the conscious decision to not run, not leaving the pocket today. Against the Saints, he really didn't want to leave the pocket. Specifically against the Chiefs, he really didn't want to leave the pocket for whatever reason. And so you saw that. The Bills game was another game where he refused to run. You're like, dude, take off. Go. So him acknowledging that is another step in the right direction. Like, yeah, I can do this. I don't have to be, too careful. I can protect myself. I know how to get down and slide before contact comes. And he's done a really good job of that this year when he has taken off. So there was a lot of positives from Taylor Heinicke. We'll see if it manifests itself to him playing well on Sunday. And then we heard from Cam Sims, who, look, he's going to play this week. Barring a setback, he's like, yo, it just feels so good to get back out on the field with my brothers. Like, I miss this. And so hopefully he's able to do the things necessary. And he still says, he's got to prove some things to himself, being able to get in and out of cuts and in and out of breaks. But if he's able to do that competently, I think he's going to play against Denver. And that'll be a huge boost for this offense because we got a lot of young guys out there. DeAndre Carter, who hasn't had a ton of reps, as a receiver in this league, he's been more of a primary kick return guy and punt returner. He's been out there a ton. Dax Milne has been out there a bunch. De'Ami Brown, obviously. So it'd be nice to get a veteran guy out there, someone that, knows the offense and knows where he needs to be and what he needs to do. So in a big target, I mean, that's the biggest thing we've been missing is, Heinicke likes to miss high. Well, if you're going to miss high to somebody, Cam Sims is the guy that can maybe make it a completion instead of it being just too high for Terry and Dax Milne and some of these other guys. So that's something else that he answered in his presser was he being Taylor Heinicke about the high throws. And, he was asked, is this, a issue with your mechanics? And he's like, nah, it's just, bad, just a miss. Guys miss sometimes. I don't know if it's just, I think it's more of his mechanics. I think it's him throwing off of his back foot. And he's mentioned that before after games, maybe being a little flat footed on the throw here or there. But I don't think it's just a miss. Sometimes it is. I don't think, some of these throws are just misses. I think he has some poor mechanics, but that's nor here nor there. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers and all of your comments. I want to first thank all of my Patreon supporters out there. A couple of weeks ago, one of my Patreon supporters was like, hey, you treat us like a redheaded stepchild. And I will admit I have been somewhat negligent. And again, charge it to my head, not my heart. A lot of things going on. And I've somewhat divulged that to many of you out there. But for those of you who don't watch my podcast or aren't members of the MOBB, then you don't know this. So I'll tell you, my wife is pregnant with twins. And so it's been quite a journey, and we're coming down home stretch. The twins are due in December. They're really technically due in January, but the doctor said that they're probably going to come in December, but they could come any day. So we've already got our bags packed just in case we're sitting at home one day and she starts to go into labor. So we're all ready to go. And so it's been hectic. There have been days when she hasn't felt well and I had to scrap things that I was going to do, or, I've had to take over daddy duties and, things that she would help me with. She doesn't feel up to helping me with. And you know how life is. I don't like to bring these things to your doorstep because at the end of the day, nobody cares. But I'm just giving you information and background as to why I haven't been on some of the things, and the NFL hasn't helped with their film. They've done a terrible job with the film this year, and they messed up the entire process, and they made it a lot harder for me. But I've kind of figured out how I want to go about it. So hopefully I'll be able to get you guys some film, because there's some things that I want to show you, some clips of some games that I've assembled and chopped up, of some missed opportunities that we have to be better at. And, it's just some things that I want to show you guys. So hopefully I'll be able to get that out to you tomorrow is the hope, but we'll see what happens. But I do appreciate each and every single one of you guys, of you Patreon supporters, man. You guys have been with me for a very long time. Some of you for a very long time. Some of you have just gotten there. It's all the same. I appreciate every single one of you. And so down below, you'll see each and every single one of your names scrolling down below. And for every single one of these Washington live streams that we do, I will have you guys acknowledged down at the bottom of the screen. I don't want you to feel like I don't appreciate you, because I do, just like I do every member of the MOBB, just like I do every member that is not a part of either Patreon or the mob. I appreciate you guys as well. But thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and all of the members of the MOBB. Couldn't do this without all of you. So with that said, we will get to the comment section, see if we have any comments. If we don't, we'll get out of here. I want to acknowledge my guy Metaphor for upping his Mob Squad membership from silver to gold. Stand up. You are officially a gold member of the MOBB. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that Metaphor, I just want to go down the list real quick and acknowledge everyone's badge right now that has been here for a while, been members of the mob. My guy Metaphor is a SQ member of the squad. So you've gotten your S and your Q badge. So that means you've been here for 2 months. Same could be said for Condoleezza Perry. So she has her S and her Q. Dexter Williams has his S. He's earned his S. Congratulations to you guys. Let's see if there's anyone else out there. Derek B has his S in squad. So thank you for that, Derek B. Let's see if there's anyone else out there that has been a member long enough to have earned a letter. And I think that might be it. And a lot of you that are out there that are members of the mob, just continue to be members, and you too will earn your stripes as well. Dewan Porch, you have your S also. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to all the members of the mob. Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you to all of you out there. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you, Metaphor. Now we move on to a comment. Let's see if we have a super chat. We do hear from Dejan Bell. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dejan Bell writes, we need to make a move for a red zone running back. They're hoping that Antonio Gibson morphs into that. Like, I don't think they're looking to find someone like Antonio Gibson isn't a 217 or 200 and even 17 is somewhat, of a good size for a running back. But he's not 217 pounds. He's not 207 pounds. Like Christian McCaffrey is like 207. Alvin Kamara is like 215. He's not either one of those guys. He's 230. He's 227. He's 225. He's a big guy. He should be able to handle short yardage. That's the way they feel. They have every right to feel that way because he's a big guy. They shouldn't have to go out and get a back specifically for that purpose. Last year, it was okay. It was his first year. You're trying to teach him how to run on his track and how to, be a running back. And so, you didn't want too much on his plate. So you let Peyton Barber handle the short yardage situations. This year, he should be able to handle all of that stuff. And so, no, I don't agree we need a red zone back. He needs to be better in that. And if he can't do that, then maybe he's not the guy for the job. You know what I'm saying? So they want him to do everything. I've never heard of a dynamic or elite, and I'm not saying that he's either one right now, but that's what they think he is. Yeah, dynamic and elite back. And we thought we saw the makings of that last year. And I don't think that's gone away because he's gotten off to less of a start this year. I think they're viewing him as a guy that can be a difference-making back. And I don't recall many difference-making backs not being able to convert on third and short. Most of the guys that are trusted as three-down backs are also three-down backs because they can get it in short yardage situations. And they believe Antonio Gibson can be that. So I look forward to seeing him excel at that and he's getting better. I can see some situations where he puts his shoulder down and he's able to to extend plays, stay up, you get yards after contact. So he's getting better at it. But the only thing that I think he can do a little bit better of is sometimes on 3rd and short, just stick your foot in the ground, put your head down, and get what's there. Get what you can get. The Talk Heavy Podcast. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Talk Heavy Podcast writes, do you start Fitz or let Taylor finish the season? I'm a let Taylor finish the season type of guy. I know what Fitz is. I never wanted Fitz. So you're asking the wrong person. I'm biased. I never wanted Fitz here to begin with. And I don't know if he would have been a better option for this team or not. I'm not a Ryan Fitzpatrick guy. So I'm good with just letting Taylor Heinicke get as many reps as he possibly can. The more reps he gets, the better he is for us moving forward in whatever role he ends up having with this team, whether it's in a backup capacity or as a starter in the future. The more reps he gets, the better quarterback he becomes. So I would prefer Taylor Heinicke to just continue to play ball. I think he scares teams with his legs. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick scares teams with his ability to make plays. But at the same token, he's going to turn it over. And Heinicke's turned it over too. I mean, who are we kidding, right? I think, though, there's a chance he could get better in the turnover department, whereas Fitz is what he is. So we'll see what happens. I prefer Taylor to finish out the year. Let's see. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, why can't 90 and 99 stay on 4 opening drives? 5 touchdowns and field goal, 7 games. I think they're so hyped up on that first possession that, because you're right, every first possession, and here's the problem, we never force a 3 and out. Then you won't have to worry about them coming off the field on plays 8, 9, and 10 of a drive to open up the game. If we get off the field after the first 3rd down, and generally this team gets the team to 3rd down on the very first set of downs. It's rare that the first play of the game is a 17-yard completion. It's rare that the first play of the game is a 11-yard run and a fresh set of downs. It's usually a run or an incomplete pass or something to that effect. It sets us up, making us feel like there's a chance we can get off the field. And then we don't. And they convert on 3rd and whatever. And then that's when shit starts to go downhill. And next thing you know, they get into a rhythm. And then Chase Young's off the field. And we start to see some Casey Toohill or some James Smith-Williams. And then next thing you know, he's back on the field and Montez Sweat is out of the game. I know what you're saying. I think the adrenaline is flowing and it's pumping early in the game. These guys are hyped up. You expend more energy when you're amped at the beginning of a game. Anybody that's played sports knows those first 5 or 7 minutes of the game are just exhausting, especially when you're amped up and ready to go, no matter what sport you play other than baseball, because you're just standing there. But if you played basketball, if you played football before, those first 5 minutes, you're expending so much energy because you're amped, you're juiced. And then you realize, I got to pace myself. I'm out of control right now. Heartbeats racing, and then you just settle in. And so I think that's what happens on that opening possession, is that they're so amped up and they're so ready to go, is that they expend so much energy that they end up being super tired. So they don't finish that first drive completely. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Got another super chat. This one is from Hancho Padula. Thank you for the super chat, Hancho Padula, who writes, Lou 6-3 in 2018, ended up 7-9, never out of it. Now that 2018 season felt like a house of cards. There were a lot of Washington fans that felt like if Alex Smith doesn't get hurt, that we win 10 games and make it to the playoffs. That's possible. I didn't feel like the Eagles were world beaters that year. Nor the Cowboys or any of the teams that we ultimately ended up losing to that season. But that team wasn't good defensively. We already knew that. The Buccaneers essentially did what we did to the Packers last week to us in 2018 when Ryan Fitzpatrick in that offense put up over 500 yards of total offense and only scored 3 points because they missed like 3 field goals, had an interception. Josh Norman had an interception down inside the 5, and they had a fumble. I remember Ryan Anderson forcing a fumble of one of their running backs, punching it out Bolo style and recovering that. And so they marched it up and down the field, but just calamity after calamity stopped them from putting any points on the scoreboard. And we won that game like 16-3 or something like that. So our defense was terrible that year. That was Drew Brees' porn year on Monday Night Football. We weren't good defensively. I remember the Falcons stunk that year, and they came to our house and they beat the living shit out of us. I mean, just obliterated us in our own state. It was like 31-13. And we couldn't stop a nosebleed that day. They threw a ridiculous wide receiver screen to like Julio Jones, and he ended up scoring a touchdown on it. And he hadn't scored like but 1 touchdown all season. He ended up like 2 or 3 in that game. We were awful defensively that year. So I didn't think we were going to be good anyway. But Alex Smith getting hurt obviously had a lot to do with that season, ending as poorly as it did. But at the end of the day, it's never over. You never know what's going to happen. And that's essentially what you're trying to say. And I agree with that as well. See if we got any more supers. And we do got one here from Tony P 56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Tony P 56 writes, "What up, Lou? What up, Tony P? Did you ever get that hat I sent? I haven't gotten it yet. Now, I haven't checked my P.O. box in like 2 weeks, so I need to check it. But I checked it when you said you were going to send it, and nothing was in there, so I just figured you just didn't send it. I mean, that wouldn't have been the first time someone said they were going to send me something and ultimately didn't send me anything. I get that all the time. Hey, man, let me send you this hat. Let me send you this shirt. And nothing. And I tell, like I said, I'm not mad. I don't care if you send me the stuff or not. It's cool. If you want to send me something, you don't have to do it. But I just assumed you didn't send it. And that would have been cool. I wasn't tripping off of it. But no, if you've sent it already, then now I have a reason to go check my P.O. box. So I'll go check that out. Thank you for the super chat, Tony P 56. Got a new member to the squad, Nick Caps. Stand up. You are now officially a brand new member of the MOBB, Nick Caps. Welcome aboard the squad. Mob, you know what to do. Nick Caps needs some love. Embrace. Show love. And welcome to the MOBB. Glad to have you and look forward to chopping it up with you. Nick Caps. So we get to our next comment here from King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. King of the North, greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your generosity. Can't thank you enough for all that you continue to do for the Louie T Network. My guy, King of the North, thank you for being a very loyal member of the MOBB, who writes, "Just wanted to say congrats, man, and give you some diaper money." I appreciate that. We actually do have a diaper fund. That's crazy that you said that. We do have, because honestly, if you've ever been a parent before, the stroller, and which we needed because we got 2 of them, and the car seats, we needed those. We got them. Need 2 of those because you get having twins again, and you need just about 2 of everything. All that stuff is nice and you need it. But at the end of the day, anyone that's been a parent before, the one thing you want the most of is diapers and wipes, okay? That's the last thing you want to have to buy. There's so much stuff that you ultimately end up having to buy as a parent. The last thing that you want to have to worry about is diapers and wipes. And the game becomes real when you run out of the baby shower diapers and wipes and you got to start spending money. You become spoiled as a parent when you don't have to buy any diapers and wipes. But when they run out and you realize you got to start buying them, now you're like, hey, we got to potty train these guys. We can't keep buying diapers every week. This is getting out of control now. So I appreciate that. I really do. He says, we're going to win Sunday, Lou. I think so too. I'm right there with you, King of the North. He says, I feel it in my gut, and gut feel picks are over 90% for me this year. Ron is a good late season coach. We've narrowed down the problems to a manageable level. I agree with this comment wholeheartedly. Ron has proven, and I've said this to you guys before in the past, he's proven that he can get the job done as the season wears on, his teams get better. So that bodes well for us. It happened last year as well. So there's a track record here in Washington with that. As you mentioned, I think we've gotten the problems down to a manageable level. And it also helps that the level of competition isn't as great. When you're trying to figure shit out, the last thing you need to do is be playing upper echelon teams. When you're trying to figure out things and you're trying to get, guys on the same page and you're trying to figure out this, that, and the third, the last thing you really need to be doing is playing the Tampa Bay Bucks or the Buffalo Bills or the Green Bay Packers. I'd much rather take my chances against the Falcons and the Giants and the Saints and, the Broncos and the Panthers. Let me take my chance at those teams. So we're going to get that opportunity this week. And again, they're looking at us like food too. Like this isn't a winless Broncos team that we should trounce. They have more wins than us. They're looking at us like food, just like we're looking at them as a meal. So somebody, as I said, is going to have a belly full on Sunday, and someone is going to be in that other person's belly. Who is the predator? Who is the prey? I think we do the feasting this week, but again, we will see. But it's good to know that you feel the same way. I'm not tripping. I think this is a winnable football game and one that we get. But again, we're going to have to show something we really haven't showed this season at all, and that's consistency. We haven't been able to take a good performance from one week and carry it over into the next. We haven't done that once this season. We weren't all that great in week one. We were excellent offensively in week two. We were terrible in week three. We were excellent in week four. We were, in week five. We were awful in week six. We were better in week seven. Now what happens in week 8? The consistency has been lacking or non-existent. Will it show up in week 8 finally, where we take a solid performance and build upon that and be even better? We will see. Once again, thank you for the super chat and the support, King of the North. Got another super chat here. This one is from Door Gunner. What's going on, Door Gunner? Great to hear from you. Thank you for the super chat. Always good to hear from you. Never know where you are. You're always somewhere. Maybe you're home now. It feels like a little while since I've heard from you, so I'm assuming you're not at home. Anyway, he says, what up, Lou? What up, Door Gunner? He says, it's 4:30 a.m. here. Well, I just got my answer. You're not at home, obviously. He said, is it too much to ask to finally wake up to a win this weekend? Tired of waking up and you having to wear black. I'm tired of wearing black. I thought this season, how good it was. Remember last year I told you guys I actually got to wash my black clothes. They were starting to get really tart, really musty because I was wearing them so often. And a lot of these shows I'd be so animated, I'd be sweating, and I don't wash the shirt. I just throw it back in the closet. So after a while, when you wear it every damn week and you get animated every week and you sweat every week, it gets a little musty. So last year, it felt good to get on that win streak, to not have to wear it, to wash it, to let it sit in the closet, to not have to worry about whether it was musty or not, even though I had washed it. It was good to know that I don't need to be dressed in all black like the Omen. Feels good to be wearing white, to be wearing burgundy, to be wearing gold. It's been pretty morbid this season. A lot of black, a lot of black. It's been a while since we've been able to do something post-game not black. So I'm with you. It'd be nice on Halloween. It'd be nice to wear something other than black. So let's see if we can't take care of that. It'd be nice for you to wake up to a dub. I think we all could use a dub for a change. So hopefully this is the week we get one, and maybe it'll be the start of something for this team moving forward. Thank you for the super chat, Door Gunner, and thank you for all that you do, not just for this channel, but for this country. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Metaphor writes, thanks for the rec, Lou. Mob, mount up. You know what it is. No doubt, man. Thank you for all that you do. The recognition is not a problem, man. Thank you for all that you do. That's the least I can do, is acknowledge what you've done. And thank you so much for your support, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Jake Willis. What you talking about, Willis? Thank you for the super chat, Jake. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Jake Willis, writes, I've been most concerned with the defense this season. Show me some nasty. Show me you ain't going to get pushed around. You know what? It's funny that you say that, Jake, because one of the things I haven't been concerned about with the defense is nasty. I haven't, the nastiness of this defense hasn't really been in question for me this year. It's been more so, show me the hustle. Show me you'll go the extra mile to make a play. You know, when a play's been 5 seconds, you haven't gotten to the quarterback, show me you're not going to quit and just say, all right, you know, Duran's got it. And you're just going to be half-assing it and loafing on the backside. Show me some hustle. Show me some fight. That's what we've been lacking this year. Oh, you know, a guy catches the ball 4 yards short of the sticks on 3rd and 7. Show me that 5 dudes are going to hustle and rally to the ball so that if that first guy misses the tackle, he's not getting the first down because there's 4 more defenders ready to tear his ass a new one. I'm not seeing that. That first guy misses. There's one more guy there who makes contact but gets drugged for an additional 3 yards and a first down. Where are the rest of the hats? There was a play against Green Bay that I thought was somewhat of a microcosm of this season so far. And it was a play in which they fumbled the ball. I don't know if it was one of their running backs or if it was one of their receivers, but the ball came out. And their guard, who was hustling on the play, was hustling to try to help his guy get more yardage on the play because he was being stood up. And he just so happened to be running to the football, and the ball was on the ground, and he recovered. And because none of us were hustling to the football, we weren't around. We showed up to the party once the ball hit the ground. Oh, there's the ball. Well, if you were busting your ass to get to the play in the first place, then you might have been there to recover the fumble. And that's been one of my issues with this team is I just don't see that same vigor, that same veracity and ferociousness to want to get to a guy. The nastiness in terms of being physical, like we're not getting punked in the run game. You know, I associate nastiness a lot of times with run game. Like you get punked in the run game, you're not nasty or physical enough. That's when teams erase the line of scrimmage and created 2-3 yards up the field. That's not happening to us. We're really getting it done in the run game. I just don't see the hustle, that I want to see from this defense that we're capable of. That will be the last sign that, okay, we're figuring things out. Thank you for the super chat, Jake Willis. But your concerns are valid. Your concerns are definitely valid with this defense in general. Brandon Hayes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Brandon Hayes, writes, holes, QB, wide receiver 2, running back, linebacker, safety, left tackle. We wishing and praying every year. What's the plan? 7th seed done this week. If we don't win, got a lot of holes. More likely than not, I concur that the 7th seed is probably a pipe dream if you don't win this week. Hard to imagine this team because I've already said this. I think it's going to take 9 wins to be in that 7 hole in the NFC. You get to the bye week at 3-5. You've given yourself a bit of cushion to where you can lose 3 games out of your remaining 9 and still have a shot, right? But if you lose this game, drop to 2-6, you would then have to win 7 out of your remaining 9. I can't envision us doing that. Not with Tampa and Seattle and 2 games against Dallas still on the schedule, and the Raiders too. Don't want to leave them out. They're a good team as well. Like, I can't imagine us finding a way to navigate the schedule and only losing 2 games out of 9 down the stretch. Whereas if you win this game, I could see us, winning 6 out of our final 9. That's not impossible. I think that's very doable. So winning this game is huge. It's a big difference between 3-5 and 2-6. Massive difference. I don't need to explain that to you. So holes on the roster. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna save this for tomorrow's show. If no one brings it up today, I'll save it for tomorrow. Someone brought up something on the podcast that I thought was interesting. It's something I want to expound upon with you guys. So I'll save that for tomorrow's show if no one brings it up. But to answer your question about holes on this team, quarterback, definitely one. Wide receiver 2, we don't know if that's a hole or not. They drafted De'Ami Brown to potentially be wide receiver 2. They also signed Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names to be wide receiver 2. So there are options for wide receiver 2 potentially on the roster. We just need those guys to be healthy. Neither have been all that healthy this season, especially Curtis Samuel, whereas De'Ami has, he's a rookie. I wasn't looking for, I told you before the season started, if we're looking for De'Ami Brown to be anything more than a 3rd option at best, really I wanted De'Ami to be our 4th option. If we were looking for anything other than 3rd option out of De'Ami, we were asking too much of him. Like we did AGG in his rookie year. We were asking too much. And with Curtis Samuel being out, we were asking too much of De'Ami Brown. So, don't know if wide receiver 2 is really a need or not, or a hole on this team, because we could have the answer and they just haven't been healthy. Running back, I don't think it's a hole on this team. We got 3, running backs that we think are good. 2 that have proven that they can play in this league. 1 that hasn't in Jared Patterson, but we think he's got some talent. Don't think running back's on that list. Or if it is, it's way down that list. I'd put defensive tackle and D-end on the list before running back. Linebacker, definitely on the list. Safety, definitely on the list. Left tackle, questionable. And somebody brought this up on the podcast earlier today about left tackle and should we be drafting a tackle, not specifically left tackle, just a tackle in general. And my response to that was, well, we could have our left tackle of the future already on the team in Sam Cosmi. Remember, he was a left tackle at Texas, and they might have wanted to just see, could he make the adjustment to playing tackle in this league? He's shown the ability to do that on the right side. If you can do it on the right side, that means you can do it on the left side. So Cosmi, who is more naturally a left tackle, might be the left tackle of the future. I could see them taking him and flipping him over to the left side next season. And, worst case scenario, sticking Cornelius Lucas back at right tackle for the time being. But I think you need to draft another tackle because, again, Charles Leno Jr. only signed a 1-year deal. Don't know if they necessarily need to have him back next season. And if they view Cosmi as just a right tackle, then cool. You can draft the left tackle. But I was saying move Cosmi to left, and then you don't have to draft a tackle in the first 2 rounds, but then get yourself a tackle in the 3rd round and feel good about that. A right tackle in the 3rd round. I think that's very doable because usually tackle is something you want to get out of the way in the 1st or 2nd round, but usually you're looking for a left tackle. If you're looking for a right tackle, I think you can get away with a 2nd, maybe a 3rd. It needs to be a day 2, no worse than a day 2 selection, because I think that the first pick is going to be a quarterback if they like someone. If they don't, then they could go in a different direction altogether, but we will see. But we do have a lot of holes, but I don't think there are as many as you named. I don't think that running back, I don't think that left tackle is necessarily a hole, nor is wide receiver 2 potentially. So we'll see what happens. Dejon Bell, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Dejon Bell, greatly appreciate you. Dejon Bell writes, I was in Green Bay for the game, holding it down for us. Were you that one fan that Taylor Heineke jumped into on the Lambeau Leap? I don't think there were very many Washington fans there, but hey, they at least they didn't embarrass you. Were you wearing Washington garb? So did they know you were a Washington fan? Did they give you a hard time, or did you just show up incognito, but you was cheering for the good guys? I'd like to know. Nick Caps, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And once again, thank you for becoming a member of the MOBB, who writes, double up, Lou. Get it. Double up. And we will double up for your membership and now for your super chat. We will definitely double up, Nick Caps. Double up. Appreciate you, Nick Caps. And again, welcome aboard. Rob U, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Rob U, writes, Lou, the O-line is solid, but I'm not a fan of Leno. You can do better than Charles Leno Jr. I think we all should expect better out of the left tackle position. That's not one of the positions on the offensive line you're just looking to get by with. I think Leno is a just get by with type of guy, which is why the Bears said, I think we're going to go ahead and draft your replacement now. He was serviceable. He's a guy you can get by with. Just like I feel the same way about Cornelius Lucas. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. He's serviceable. He's a guy you can get by with, is Cornelius Lucas, but not a guy you want to be starting and featuring. So I think that this is a one and done proposition for Charles Leno Jr. I think that when he became available, it allowed them to make Morgan Moses expendable, which they wanted to move on from him. And so I think this was a one and done situation for Charles Leno Jr. I don't expect him to be back next year. I do think that Cornelius Lucas is a guy that they'd love to have back as a swing tackle. And I think that they will, look to draft. And if they don't draft someone, or they don't feel like, the guy that they draft is ready, you've got, Cornelius Lucas ready to go. Big Luke ready to step in and do what he's done so admirably for us, which is fill in as a tackle that can keep the party going. Not necessarily, wreck some shit, but, keep the party going. No harm, no foul over there. So the offensive line, I said this before the season started, it's the position that we have the most depth at, and it's not close. We got like 4 different guards that I think we all feel comfortable if they have to go into the game that they'll be able to take care of business. We got 3 or 4 different tackles right now that we feel really three. I think 3 is the number that we're really confident in. Leno, Cosme, and Luke. Like, I think we feel confident that either of those guys can get the job done at the tackle position. I've said this, and I said it earlier on the podcast, center is the one position that I'm nervous about. And thank God for Chase Roullier and his ability to stay healthy. Let's knock on a little bit of wood here, because if he were to get hurt, you would then have to start playing musical chairs on the offensive line, and no one wants to do that. So he's the one guy that has always stayed healthy for us, and hopefully that remains to be the case. So yes, the offensive line is really solid, if you ask me. Rob U, double up. Thank you for doubling up, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Rob U, writes, can you see Landon being a baller at his new spot? I can. Like, this is the Landon Collins I envisioned when we brought him to Washington. Not Landon Collins 35 yards away from the line of scrimmage trying to act as if he's somebody's free safety. He's not. He's a box safety, and that's why some people were outraged by the contract, because they said essentially you're getting, you're paying 80, whatever, I think it was 84 million over 6 years for a box safety. And I was like, I don't give a shit if he's a box, if he comes in a cereal box. I don't care if he's a cardboard box. I just know the guy can play around the line of scrimmage. So I wanted Landon Collins in this type of position. I want my Landon Collins closer to the line of scrimmage, not further away from it. So this is a position I think he can excel at. You saw the makings of it in this game, And honestly, when he was at his best with the Giants, he was blitzing. He was making plays towards the line of scrimmage, not back as a deep safety. He had some plays in New York as a safety, making plays on the football, but those are far and few between, okay? Or few and far between. The bottom line is, I like him I love him in this spot that he's in. And as long as he buys in and continues to play the way that he did on Sunday, we could have something, because he was all over the field making plays on Sunday. So I do think he can be a baller. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Derek B. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Derek B, writes, me, I'm not taking anyone off first drive. All on you. I totally get this. I get this thought process. But what if a guy taps out and tells you, Coach, I'm hurting us by staying on the field. You're better off with a 100% stamina bar James Smith-Williams than a 12% stamina bar Chase Young. I mean, what do you do when a guy is essentially telling you, hey, I need to come out? I got nothing left. I've expended all of my energy on these first 8 plays of the drive. You're going to just leave? Nope, stay out there. And he's dragging ass. And then what do you do when he gives up something because he doesn't have it to give? Like, if that tank's empty, I want guys going until E and then tapping out. I love the fact that they do that they say, look, I went balls to the wall on 8 straight plays. Now I got nothing left. Let me sit down, get a little squirt of Gatorade, take a knee on the sidelines for 3 plays, and now I'm back in there. I got no problems with that. I know you want to keep those guys out there, but look around the league. And Derek B, I know you watch other teams too. Von Miller does the same thing. They do the same thing. These pass rushers do the same thing around the league. They don't just stay in the game and never come out. All right, they're not corners. Corners can do that because corners can take plays off on run plays. You know, almost like playing basketball. Expend all of your energy on offense or on defense. Excuse me. You want to take some time off? You want to take a play off? Do that on the offensive side. Go hide in the corner and sit there and get your win back. But you can't do that at defensive end. Every play, something is required of you. Whether you got to play the run or you got to play the pass, you're involved in the action. So you can't just catch your wind, say, all right, they don't need me on this play, I'm good. So, I know what you're saying. I hate when they're not on the field, but if they're compromised, which if they're tired, they're compromised. And not just regular tired. Everybody's tired. I'm talking about gassed. I got nothing left to give. Gassed. I don't want them on the field. So, but I know what you're saying. Thank you for the super chat, Derek B. Got another one here from Tony P56. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Tony P56. My guy, Tony P56 writes, sent delivery info to your Twitter. Thoughts on the 2 consecutive exotic plays Scotty dialed up? I think we need more of it along with wide receiver motion. So we get wide receiver motion on every play. So that's not something we need more of. I need more wide receiver motion that actually results in the wide receiver getting the football. That's what I need. And we've gotten that 2 times in the last 3 weeks. We did it against the Saints and we did it against the Packers. I need to every game. I think there should be at least one jet sweep or one wide receiver in motion, toss it to, DeAndre Carter or Curtis Samuel when he gets in the lineup. I think that should be one of those every single week. I don't think we should go an entire game without that happening. I can tell you the Rams pretty much do that at least 2 or 3 times a game, but they do that motion on almost every play. So you don't know if they're getting it or not. We need to do that. For too long, it feels like it's just window dressing when we do it. Like, that guy's not getting the ball. I don't have to worry about him. No, you got to start giving that guy the ball so they start reacting to that. And then that'll give you the looks you're looking for offensively from the defense. They'll start to react to that. And now they're out of place. And now you got guys wide open, which is why you do that. But the 2 exotic plays that Scotty drew up, I loved them. I said, this is great. We need more of this. I mean, this is the thing that I think we don't do enough of is it feels at times like we're vanilla. It feels like we're running the same, 8 plays, and that's okay if you are a machine. Like the Rams are a well-oiled machine. They run the same like 12 plays, it feels like, just out of 9 different formations. Okay. It's the same shit over and over again, but they run the shit out of it. They have perfected how to run it, and they don't miss. They execute to a T. Doesn't feel like we do that. It doesn't feel like we run these plays that we run so damn often. Doesn't feel like we have mastered how to run them, even though it's the only 8 plays that we run from a passing standpoint. And I'm simplifying things. All right, I'm exaggerating. That's not how the game is called by Scott Turner, but we see similar concepts week in, week out. We see some of the same plays called. The bottom line is, I want to see some variety. Variety is the spice of life. Okay. The thing that the Patriots have never been the most talented team, but you know what they do? They spice it up. When's the last time we saw a running back throw the football for this team? I watched Derrick Henry throw a touchdown pass last week down in the red zone. Hell, we can't score in the red zone. How about you try some trickeration then? How about you try something different? Everybody in the league has run at least one Philly special. We haven't. We haven't thrown the ball to our quarterback yet. When's the last time we've done that in Washington? Like, we don't do tricky shit. We do the predictable shit. And after a while, if you don't execute well enough to do the predictable stuff, it's not going to work. So every now and again, it's nice to, when's the last time we ran a flea flicker? Like, that's the most basic of basic trick plays is you hand it to the back. He takes 3 steps towards the line of scrimmage, turns around and tosses it back to the quarterback. When's the last time we ran one of those? Like, we don't even do the simple trick plays. So it was refreshing. It was like a hot 99-degree day in the summer, and somebody just handed me a cold bottle of water, and like a soda top, I popped it and it said, that's what those 2 trick plays or exotic plays felt like. I popped the top on that cold beverage. Man, I need more. I need more. Thank you for the super chat, Tony P 56. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, stopping by to say, what's up, Lou? What's up, Big Money Sonny? Really appreciate you. He says, congratulations on the upcoming blessing. Coach him up in life, brother. You know I will. You know I will. Thank you so much for the super chat and the well wishes. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor, writes, if Fitz isn't geriatric at the end of the year, do we bring him back and TLH back and draft a prospect to mold and hold, not thrusting in to start immediately? So Heineke is under contract for another year after this year, so he'll definitely be back. As far as Ryan Fitzpatrick is concerned, I always viewed him as one and done. I know there were some out there that said he could potentially be back for another year or 2, depending on how he played. That wasn't out of the realm of possibility, but being that he got injured and really hasn't contributed at all this season and may not contribute at all, we'll see. I think he's done. I mean, there's the chance that, let's say he comes back and is ready after the Buccaneers game. So not ready right out of the gate after the bye week, but the week after that, he's ready. And God forbid anything happens to Heineke, but let's say something does, the following week, and Fitzpatrick is ready. He goes in there, he shreds it, and we get hot. We win a few games. We don't make the playoffs, but you start to question, you know what? If he was healthy all year long, maybe, just maybe, we could have made some noise. I could see a situation where he's back again. But if you ask me right now, I think they're ready to move on from him. And, bring Heineke back, obviously, and then draft a guy. But I don't know what the thought process is. We'll see what's available this offseason, because that, I think, is going to be the biggest question as to how things go, is what's available. Again, I've said this a million times. Nobody anticipated that Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and almost Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson were available in one offseason at the quarterback position. Nobody anticipated that, but that's what we got essentially. So who's to say that this upcoming offseason, there aren't 2 or 3 guys that we didn't anticipate being available that really could help this football team that we may be able to go after as veterans at the quarterback position? Because again, I don't love the crop of quarterbacks. That doesn't mean they don't. All they have to do is love one. That's it. They don't have to love 6. They don't have to love 3 or 2, just one. Then you got to get your hands on them. I think they loved a couple of guys in the last year's draft. I think they loved one guy in particular in the draft before that. Couldn't get their hands on Joe Burrow, so they passed on that position altogether, went with Chase Young and didn't think twice about it. I guarantee you, if they had to do over again, knowing what they know now, they would have taken Justin Herbert, but they didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't think Herbert was going to be this good. And then I think in last year's draft, I do think there were 2 or 3 guys that they were smitten with. I think they really did like, Wilson, Zach Wilson. I think they loved it, Trevor Lawrence. You weren't going to get your hands on it. I think they would have even taken Trey Lance, because I think Trey Lance reminded Ron Rivera of Cam Newton. I really think he felt like Trey Lance could be the second coming of Cam Newton, and he would have loved to have gotten his hands on Trey Lance. Well, he couldn't. So, all right, let's go in a different direction. I don't love any of these other guys. If that could really happen again. So we'll see. To me, if Fitz gets an opportunity, takes advantage of it, there's a slim chance. I don't think it's great right now, but there's a slim chance. I wouldn't put it at 0%. I wouldn't say he can't come back next year. I just think that right now it's a long shot. We'll see what happens. Big Money Sonny, double up, thank you for doubling up, Big Money Sonny. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, oh yeah, and smash that like for Lou, y'all. You heard the man. We're over 100 likes. I love when I don't have to beg for that. I ain't too proud to beg though, but I love when I don't have to beg for that. So I really appreciate you guys taking care of business on that front. Thank you for that public service announcement, Big Money Sonny. JB Johnson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy JB writes, do you think Ron pays a franchise QB since it will be year 3 and a drafted rookie quarterback will take time? Ron will be more than halfway through his contract. Yeah, I think they want a rookie quarterback. Ron wants a quarterback he can call his own. Like, the reason Ron went after Matthew Stafford with aggression this past offseason is because he looked at this team, he looked at what they did in year 1, and he said, wow, we're ahead of schedule. I didn't expect us to win a division, play in a playoff game. Now, granted, and he's no dummy. He knew we were 7-9. He knew we only were in the playoffs because of the division we played in, but that doesn't change the fact that we still won the division. Like, somebody had to win the division. We were 2-7, and we got to within a game of 500. We were 6-7 after starting 2-7. This team showed resolve. It showed fight. We had 4 different starting quarterbacks last year, and we somehow still managed to win this division. And he said the defense is ahead of schedule. This offense, with the moves we've made, with Curtis Samuel and De'Ami Brown, and and they hadn't gotten De'Ami when they went after Matthew Stafford. They hadn't had the draft yet, but they knew what they were trying to do. They knew what they were going to get a receiver, whether it was De'Ami or somebody else. Word out on the street was they loved Elijah Moore. I loved Elijah Moore too. I mean, that was one of my favorite receivers in the draft. He's not doing much with the Jets, but the Jets stink. think you put Elijah Moore on the right team and he's tearing shit up. But that's nor here nor there. They knew they were going to get some more receivers, Adam Humphries. They knew they were going to add some guys to the mix. So they felt like if we get a veteran quarterback in here that we feel like can play at a high level, we got a shot with this defense. So I think Ron felt like we can expedite this process a bit. I don't think he's in that same frame of mind now. I think he's like, all right, that was fool's gold. And I fell for the trap, and I know better. I tried to skip a step, and we weren't ready. God forbid we would have got Matthew Stafford and the defense would have been playing like this. Oh, my God, it would have been 10 times worse. Because then the expectations truly would have been through the roof, and rightfully so. Like, I don't feel bad for the people that thought we were going to win 11, 12 games with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. Are you crazy? I don't feel bad for those people who are really upset. Those are the people that are talking about fire everybody, start over. Those are the people that are really pissed because they had unrealistic expectations. Had we gotten Matthew Stafford, I told you I was going to have to make sure that I didn't start talking crazy and reckless. I would have been talking 12, 13 wins had we gotten Stafford. Oh, you wouldn't have been able to contain me. Some of y'all would have had to say, Louie, bro, chill. And normally it's me saying that to y'all, but I would have been on one. So I'm glad we didn't get Matthew Stafford, but I think Ron is dying to get his guy because remember, everything Ron's done essentially has been somewhat of a reflection of what he did in Carolina to an extent. Now, there's some things that he's changing. One of those things in Carolina that he did that he vowed to change when he got here was he wasn't going to allow the team to get old, which is why you move on from a Kerrigan, which is why you move on from a Morgan Moses, which is why you move on from some of these older guys. Alex Smith didn't want to bring him back, even though he could have, because they're not looking to get old. They did bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, which is why I don't think he'll be back. They're not looking to get older. They're looking to get younger. Okay. So I think that a lot of what Ron is doing is a semblance of what he did in Carolina. And one of the things he was able to do in Carolina was get a young quarterback. They came in at the very same time. Back in 2011, Ron came in, his first year was the first year of Cam Newton, and they grew together. Ron would love to get a young quarterback and have him grow and be the guy. Like, that's the one thing that gives you longevity in this league. When you don't have a quarterback, you necessarily don't have job security in this league, because having a franchise quarterback means the most important position on the field is taken care of. When you don't have that, every year is a struggle. Every year is a new year, and you have no idea what your team's going to do. The Packers, every year they come into the season, they're not worried about the quarterback position, which means they're not really worried about what they're going to do from a record standpoint because they got Aaron Rodgers. They don't have to worry about that. Up until this year, the Chiefs weren't worried about what they were going to do. They got Patrick Mahomes. They don't worry about anything. Lamar Jackson is the reason why just 4 years ago, people were calling for John Harbaugh's head in Baltimore. A lot of you forget that. And I was like, hey, I'll take me some John Harbaugh here in Washington if you don't want him. And, he gets Lamar Jackson. Who's talking about John Harbaugh being out of Baltimore now? It changes when you don't have those issues, when you're not juggling quarterbacks, it changes things. Mike Tomlin, just 3 years ago, was being rumored to be on the outs in Pittsburgh. Why? Because Roethlisberger was hurt every year, and they're going through all these bum quarterbacks. The guy from Oklahoma who stunk, Mason Rudolph, and they had a guy named Duck at quarterback, for God's sake. Like, they were going through everybody, and they still won 8 or 9 games every year and just missed the postseason or whatever the case may be. But that wasn't good enough. So I was like, I know a lot of people say Mike Tomlin's a terrible coach. He's this, he's that. Well, okay, I'd like to find out for myself, because all I know is the guy wins, no matter what. So he might be a terrible in-game coach, and he might not manage the clock well, this, that, and the third, but his guys play hard, and he gets the most out of his players. That's all I know. He might not be the best in-game strategy coach. I'll grant you that. When to go for 2, when to, call timeouts, when to throw the challenge. That might not be his thing. But he gets his guys prepared to play each and every single week, no matter who's at quarterback. But boy, it makes life a lot easier when you got Ben Roethlisberger and not Landry Jones. So Ron wants a guy. Who doesn't? Zach Taylor was this close in Cincinnati to being fired because Joe Burrow got hurt last year. This close. Burrow's back this year. They're 5-2. Who's talking about firing Zach Taylor now? That's the difference a quarterback can make. You get the right one. Now, it could go in the opposite direction. Okay? You could be Steve Wilkes in Arizona and get Josh Rosen. Rosen's gone and you're fired in 1 year. You could be Matt Nagy in Chicago, trade up for Mitchell Trubisky. He's gone, and if you're not careful, you're going to be gone. He's going to be gone here shortly with Justin Fields too. So it goes both ways. You can't, that's why I don't want them to swing for anything. You swing and miss, you can find yourself on the bench. So Ron wants a young quarterback. And Ron said, this is 4 years. If Ron gets a quarterback in year 3, a rookie, and they see promise in that young rookie, and it may not show up in the win column, everyone will concede. If you get a young quarterback, everyone will concede, hey, they're going to take a step back this year because you got a young, and we wouldn't mind that if we see the promise and we see a guy that we can call our own. And then we'll be ready to rock and roll in year 2 of that quarterback, which is year 4 of Ron, which is what Ron said. Year 4 was it's a 4-year turnaround. And that's why I told you after the first year, I'm like, it'd be cool to get a quarterback, but if we don't, you'd be all right. You wanted a quarterback after year 1, but I said year 3 is when you need to get that guy. And that's the tough part is I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't see it. And every year you think, well, how many teams could possibly need a quarterback? Everybody's getting a quarterback every year. And some of these guys are actually really good. Everybody can't need a quarterback every year. But every year, 5 or 6 teams need a quarterback. You're hearing all these teams interested in Deshaun Watson. The Broncos need a quarterback. The Panthers need a quarterback. The Texans will probably need a quarterback if they're trading away Deshaun Watson. The Dolphins need a quarterback. We need a quarterback. So right there are 5 teams that are going to need a quarterback. And they're probably only going to be 2 or 3 guys worth even drafting in the first round. Not everybody's going to get a quarterback in this game of musical chairs. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for the super chat, JB Johnson. Quentin Ruiz, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Quentin Ruiz writes, Curl and Collins need to swap contracts. But in all seriousness, how do you feel about Danny Johnson getting more playing time? Thanks for being consistent. Thank you for being consistent, Quentin Ruiz. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I don't think we're going to see an increase in Danny Johnson's playtime. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Danny Johnson is inactive this week, which sucks because I thought Danny played really well. And I thought he played so well, in fact, that I thought he deserved to have a role on this defense moving forward, until he proves to me that that was a fluke and that that's not what I'm getting out of him on a weekly basis. But I would give him the opportunity to prove that wrong, prove that to be the case or not to be the case. Either way, I'm going to give him an opportunity after what he showed me against Green Bay. Part of the defense playing better, I think, was having a guy like Danny Johnson out there in the secondary. I mean, how many times did Aaron Rodgers on third down look at a blitz, man-to-man across the board and have nowhere to go? Or we play some form of zone and they throw it out in the flats and Danny Johnson makes a nice form tackle and we get off the field. These are qualities we were missing before. I'd like to see more, but if William Jackson, the only reason Danny Johnson was up is because William Jackson III was inactive. So if William Jackson III is back, the likelihood is that Danny Johnson is inactive again because now you've got your DBs. You don't need Danny Johnson anymore. And so we'll see what happens. Ron said that they love Danny Johnson because he's always ready. They know at any time if they need him, they can pull him up and he'll be ready to go. And that kind of tells me that, yeah, we appreciate what Danny did for us, but William Jackson III is healthy. He's going back out to the boundary, and in comes Kendall Fuller back inside, and that's that. My thing is, you got a nickel on each side, but they don't generally take off Cam Curl and or Landon Collins off the field in that spot. They usually put a safety at the other nickel. They don't put two corners on the field inside. So I would be shocked if Danny Johnson saw the field as much as he did this upcoming week. I wouldn't even be shocked if he's inactive this week, with William Jackson III potentially being back active and ready to go on the field. So we'll see what happens. Quentin Ruiz, double up, thank you for doubling up, Quentin. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Quentin Ruiz writes, how's your faith in Gibson? It's still high. Obviously the bar, much like the overall bar for this team was, specifically for me, defensively, was set relatively high to start the season off. The team, not so much. I think it was I thought it was a reasonable bar for the team as a whole. But I thought for defensive purposes, I set the bar really high after what I had seen. And I told you guys, we're going to find out a lot about this team defensively because this is a schedule that won't allow us to hide. If we're good, it'll prove itself out. If we're not, we'll be exposed because this schedule with these quarterbacks, we can't hide this defense if it's not good. And we've seen that this defense was nowhere near what we thought it was going to be. I think the bar was set high for Gibby in a rookie season where the first 3 or 4 weeks, he was pretty much, spoon-fed like a little baby. They didn't want to put too much on his plate. They didn't really give him a real opportunity to be the guy until like weeks 5 or 6, somewhere in there. And then you remember you get Gibby going off, and the Thanksgiving game to me still is his best game of his career, and the one game where we said, okay, this is what this guy could be. But there were flashes all throughout the season, big plays here and there made by Gibby. But what was constant last year once he got the playing time was this guy has a nose for the end zone. We're not seeing that this year. And he's fumbling a lot more. So, but he's dealing with a shin injury. So what I've seen this year, the improvements is his vision, is his ability to make people miss. He didn't have that last year. He wasn't making anyone miss last year. He's cutting back. He's doing things that he didn't do last year. He's seeing the field better. But in doing that, I think his balance hasn't been all that great this year. Obviously, the shin may have something to do with that. The fumbling issues are becoming exactly that. He needs to protect the football. And we're not seeing some of the explosion, even though we did see a flash of that against Buffalo. And we're not seeing that knack for the end zone like we saw last year. The man had, again, 12 rushing touchdowns last year. So I think after the bye, he'll be a little bit healthier. He just needs some time, man. He just needs some time. I think this bye week couldn't have come at a better time for him. He's been fighting through the shoulder. And, don't forget, Heineke got him lit up in the Atlanta Falcons game. So I think there's something there maybe with his ribs too and his shin. That bye week is going to be great for him. I haven't given up on Gibby. The dude is super talented. The one thing I've already said, and I said this last year, he's not as natural a receiver as they keep trying to make him out to be. I'm not saying don't throw him the football, but we don't have to force feed him the ball. I don't mind getting J.D. McKissick on the field in some of those situations. J.D. needs to pick his damn feet up too. I'm sick of him tripping over his own damn feet. Pick your damn feet up, J.D. But I love Antonio Gibson. I haven't given up on him. And I think that the sky's the limit for him still. I think he's super talented at his size and how fast he can run and some of the things he can do. And he showed a lot more power this year as well. That wasn't something we saw a lot of last year. What we did see last year, though, is I always said upon contact, he's always falling forward. Last year, he would run into somebody with a gain of 4 and end up with a gain of 6. And this year, you're seeing that, but not as prevalent. But I think what you're seeing this year is There's 3 defenders waiting on him. He puts his shoulder down and he still gets 1 when there's nothing there. And we didn't see that last year. So love Gibson. Think he's going to be a really good football player for us moving forward. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Derek B writes, Dunny was cut from Green Bay practice squad, career suicide, social stale. I told you when Gibby asked for his release from the Seahawks. I believe he asked to be released by the Seahawks. I said, this is the beginning of the end for him. You know, in his career, Quentin Dunbar, I think, suffered from something that a lot of players suffer from, but ultimately don't have the demise that he had because they don't have the off the field stuff that he had and some of the injury issues he's had over the life of his career. But he suffers from getting big-headed and thinking he's better than what he is and starting to make demands that don't fit what he is as a player in the league. So when he was in Washington, all he had to do that last year, I get it. You've been on this rookie contract. You got all these dudes around you that's starting to get paid, and you looking around and you're getting antsy and you want yours. Ron just got here and he's like, yo, I'm not paying nobody. Sheriff is on a 1 year. Ryan Kerrigan is on a 1 year deal. I'm not paying nobody, man. Just come to work. Show me what you got. And if you sell me on the fact that you got some skill, I'd love to have you back and we'll sign you to that deal you're looking for. Dunny got antsy. I want my money. I want my money now. Okay. You're out of here. Traded him to Seattle. Then he had the off the field issue with DeAndre Baker and all of that good jazz. And Seattle had to deal with that. But even when he got healthy, he was starting to play some ball for them and he was making some plays. Then he got injured. And then Seattle was like, come on, dude. And they're like, look, you want to get paid? You got to stay healthy. So then he was out there on them streets. And I think he went back to Seattle. And then he wasn't playing. And he was like, I want out. And I was like, okay. They let him go. And now he's been wandering the streets aimlessly looking for work. Don't be that guy. Don't be quick. Like another guy that used to be here that was going down that path was Bashaud Breeland. Like, I'm like, Bree, I know you want this long-term deal. You want somebody to love you. You want somebody to do what the Panthers were about to do. Ron was about to do that, if you guys recall. 3 years, I think it was 3 years, 27 for Bashaud Breeland. And then he failed the physical and ended up on a 1 year deal in Kansas City and then another 1 year deal in Kansas City. And now he's on a 1 year deal in Minnesota. And he's like, well, somebody just love me. And I was like, yo, I hear you. I get it. I know what this is and I know how you feel, but bro, don't be that guy that squabbles his way out of the league because you think you deserve more and you turning down money. Just get what you can get. So I think it's over for Dunny, but we'll see. It ain't looking too good. When you start bouncing around on the P squad, the end is near. The end is near. JP, my guy John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, would you be open to drafting Matt Corral or Malik Willis or possibly acquiring Matt Ryan? Those are the two guys I get the most. I don't know. I haven't. Again, if this team stinks in November, I'll start turning my attention to these quarterbacks. Nice and early. You know, that's probably until the Twins get here. But I don't know enough about either of those guys. I've watched a ton of Matt Corral in his career, but it's one thing to watch a guy, you know, in games, not necessarily studying the nuances of his game, but just watch. I just know he plays in a wide open offense. Doesn't really force him to make reads per se, NFL reads, that is. A lot of RPOs, which I'm not a big fan of. But again, the league is adjusting the quarterbacks like that. So It's not that big of a turnoff anymore. I know he's got a lot of the skills that you look for. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I think he's about 6'2". You know, just looking at him, that's the eyeball test. I can't tell you if he measures out any, lower or higher than that. I don't think he's any taller than 6'2". Just looking at him with the eyeball test. I wouldn't be shocked if he measures out at like 6'1" and 3/8 or something like that. He doesn't look that big to me, but he's an athlete. He's got a big arm. He can be accurate at times, and I think there's a lot to like. And like I said, there's probably going to be 2 quarterbacks or so in this draft class that everybody kind of gets enamored with, and I think he's going to be one of them. And of course, I just mentioned like 5 or 6 teams that'll be looking for quarterbacks. And the Steelers, you need to throw them in there. They can't think that Dwayne Haskins is the future and Ben can't play for much longer. They're going to have to do something at the quarterback position. So, when you look around, there are going to be a bunch of teams jockeying for what is probably going to be like 2 quarterbacks in this draft, maybe 3. So we'll see. I don't know anything about Malik Willis. Again, other than he plays at Liberty. Don't know anything about him. I'd have to watch him. But I'll have an opinion, trust me. By the time we get to, the draft season, I'll have an opinion on both of these guys and whether, those will be targets for this team. And if they're good, more likely than not, you're going to have to trade up to get your hands on one or both of these guys. Are we willing to do that? We'll see. As far as acquiring Matt Ryan is concerned, I don't know if he'll be available. I still think his contract is one that is unmovable for the Falcons. Like last year, I think he was making something like 35 or 36 million. And if they were to trade him, it would have escalated to like 45 or 46 million dollars that they would have been on the books for with Matt Ryan. Like I still think that contract isn't worth trading for the Falcons at this time. And really, they're winning games right now. They're 3-3. So who knows what they're thinking about in terms of their future. Matt Ryan isn't like 40. He's only like 35, maybe 36 at the oldest. I think he's like 35 or something like that. He's not super old. I mean, he's not super young either, but he's not super old. Like, you can still win with Matt Ryan as your quarterback. So if I'm the Falcons, I don't know if I'm looking to move on right now. And like I said before, they took Kyle Pitts, maybe because they didn't love any of the quarterbacks sitting there at number 4. But that was the opportunity to get a quarterback. If they really wanted to move on from Matt Ryan, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, all those guys were sitting there for the taking. They chose to pass on both of those guys. So I think that kind of says that they're willing to roll with Matt Ryan for at least the foreseeable future, the next maybe 2-3 years before they decide to move on. And until he shows a drop-off, and Matt Ryan's playing at a high level this year. So I don't think he'll be available, but we will see. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. King of the North, who writes, Pittsburgh is my dark horse for Watson if he doesn't go to Miami. That's interesting. I don't know what kind of draft capital the Steelers have. I think they've got their first round pick, back because they drafted Najee this year. I knew they gave up one for Minkah Fitzpatrick, but I think that was for 2 years ago. So they gave that one up already. They drafted Najee Harris this year in the first round. So I think they have all of their first round draft picks, if I'm not mistaken. So that's interesting. The Steelers being a dark horse. That's really interesting, actually. I didn't think of them at all, but it would make a ton of sense. Now, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to do it right now, obviously, because they still have Ben Roethlisberger, and Watson isn't looking to be traded. Remember, he has a no trade clause. So if you go to him this year and you say, hey, we got a trade lined up for you to go to Pittsburgh right now, all the Texans are waiting for is for you to push the button, and it's a done deal. But you're not going to play this year because they got Ben Roethlisberger. He may say no just off the strength of thinking I can play this year, and I'm not trying to sit on the bench behind Roethlisberger. That would be short-sighted because if they do trade for you, that means they're ready to move on from Roethlisberger next year, and you're the guy moving forward. But that also you could put yourself in a conundrum, because what if Ben does that shit that Ben always does? I think I could play next year. Then what? Do you got to push a legend out the door like, sorry, Ben, you got to go. But I don't know. Ben, we love you. It's time to go. I don't know. That's interesting, though. That's interesting. Let's see. All right. That's the last super chat. So we will get out of here. Really appreciate y'all holding the kid down once again here on Washington Football Nightly. We're going to have some interesting discussions tomorrow on the show. Remember, if you're a gold member of the Mob Squad, we squad up tomorrow night, 7 p.m. It's already in the community tab, so take a look at that. Make sure you click on that link and join us. Studs and Duds will be out tomorrow. I'm hoping to get some film out for you Patreon supporters. And once again, all of you Patreon supporters, thank you so much for all that you do. I will try to have that film out for you guys tomorrow as well. So looking forward to chopping it up with you tomorrow on the show. I'll have a couple of interesting takes for you tomorrow. Since nobody brought it up tonight, I'll expound upon that tomorrow. And we start turning our attention to the Denver Broncos tomorrow as well. So we'll see what practice looks like. We'll see, what this team it sounds like. And tomorrow is coordinator day. So it'll be good to hear from Del Rio and from Scott Turner and see how they felt about the Green Bay game and how they feel about this upcoming game against the Broncos and moving forward. So a lot to get to, a lot to discuss. Really looking forward to it in any event. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you guys again. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. You guys stay safe. Take care. God bless. And good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.